Disclaimer, this is a topic that goes way deeper in the depth I'm diving into in this video. This video is not a breakdown of Jacksonville gang politics. In this video, my plan is to take an overall look at GMK's legacy and comment on what I feel could have led him into getting involved in street politics and what makes him arguably the most underrated artist out of Jacksonville. Thanks, I hope you enjoy. Christian Brown, better known by his stage name, GMK, is a decently known Jacksonville Drill artist who, through the rise of his crew, ATK, and some of his friends like Young and Ace and Backstreet, has started to gain some traction in the underground music scene of Jacksonville, and I feel he's sorely underrated and overshadowed by the rest of his crew. Let me prove to you why. Originally born in Jacksonville, GMK would bounce around the southern United States as a child, originally going up to stay in North Carolina with his mother, then moving to Mississippi until Katrina happened. Katrina damaged almost all of the South, but really it hit hardest in Mississippi and Louisiana. Katrina damaged their house to the point that it didn't make sense to try and repair. That being said, the weeks after Katrina was said to be the hardest time for GMK as a kid, off the limited food supply and clean water. Though GMK would also say it didn't devastate the family, it just kind of set them back a little.
You know, people food running out, they giving out free water, stuff like that. It ain't no electricity. Nobody ain't got nothing, take no baths and stuff like that, you feel me? So it's just like maybe that type of experience might affect the family, but I wouldn't say like it just devastated, like set us back, no crazy way, no type of shit. I feel like we just kind of got up and got from around when the time came.
GMK and his mother went back to Jacksonville shortly after the hurricane hit. But GMK would only stay in Jacksonville for a few years after that, before being sent to live with his grandmother and the rest of his family in Alabama. Due to the constant moving, GMK's early life wouldn't be the most stable, causing him to have to get used to making friends and connections from scratch over and over and over, as well as maybe drawing him into the darker side of things off the instability. Though, that being said, Alabama will turn out to be a blessing in disguise, because being around all of his family really brightened his childhood and helped ingrain in him a sense of love and respect for all things related to family.
So you always been a family man?
Yeah, that been something that was just instilled in me. Like I always been big on like family and my morals and what I stand for, you feel me? Like it's just always been like programmed in my head.
Growing up, GMK would listen to music quite often, but he himself never saw himself as a musician early on. He goes on to say that growing up with older brothers, he was always hearing the new poppin' artist, and that led to him gaining a deep respect for the artist he see making it. During his teen years, GMK would go on to be a bit rowdy. At age 14, GMK would be picked up for a strong-armed robbery, and GMK would also go on to say that by 14, he was already both feet in the streets, getting locked up and locked out of his house, getting caught doing shit, and just being a part of the street lifestyle. Even from an early age, GMK accepted the consequences of the streets with open arms, and I feel this is what would lead him to be one of the strongest pillars of ATK. I'm getting a little ahead of myself though. A year after being arrested, GMK would become more spiritual, becoming a devout Muslim, which he consistently professes in his music and interviews. Growing up, his family had a wide range of beliefs. It went from people who ain't believing nothing to hardcore Christians and devout Muslims. So GMK was exposed to a lot of spirituality as a youngin', which most definitely influenced the course he took in life. When GMK got out of juvie at 17, his close friend Backstreet introduced him to Young and Ace, and the rest of ATK. GMK would go on to say that he felt that it was due to manifestation.
That was my first experience in life with like real deal, like manifestation, you feel me? Like that was the first time that I had ever like encountered something like that, so it was like powerful because, I don't know, like I got in there and I was bullshitting.
In jail, GMK would pick up music, mostly as a way to kill time. He'd rap with other inmates while he was locked up, and this kind of served to plant a seed in GMK's mind that music is something that he could do if he wanted to. And the inmates started to gravitate towards him through his music within about 2 months of him rapping. It got to a point that even the guards and counselors started singing his shit. And that being said, he wasn't fully sold on doing music until a little bit later, so like this isn't the origin. But it kind of planted the seed, if that makes sense.
That journal, I got to write and put my mind to it just to have something to kill the time, but by the end of that month, let's say from that day I started writing, by the end of that month, I had everybody in there like fucked up about it.
Really?
Everybody walking around, counselors and shit walking around.
GMK would go on to say that since he was a kid, he didn't feel like he had anything that was really him. Like, he was good at a lot of things, but he didn't have a niche that he really fucked with until music came along. And when music came along, he decided he was going to fully dive into it, for better or for worse.
I ain't never really had nothing that I did and I really did that bit, you feel me? Like I feel like everything I did, like anything I started, like rather it be like some sports shit or some type of shit, anything that I was about to start or some type of shit, if that shit got sour, I just said, fuck that. Like, I ain't wanna do that shit no more, I'm finna go post over my dogs. Or I ain't wanna do that shit no more, I ain't going to practice, I ain't going this. So I told myself this, I was like, all right, bro, real shit, this shit gonna go like.
GMK would go on to record a few songs that would never be released, whether due to insecurity or GMK just not feeling them at the time, until, at long last, GMK made a song he fucked with enough to do a music video for. GMK's first release, that's up anyway, was a song by the name of Gang Thang, released in early 2019, about a few months to a year after being released from jail. GMK dived fully into music as an attempt to try and do something positive and to keep himself away from the street influence that consistently messed up his life. Basically forcing himself to stay consistent even when he felt like shit wasn't working or he wasn't feeling the music he was creating, which is something I feel most artists need to do. You can't get better at the music if you never make the music type shit. Gang Thang gave GMK a big confidence boost when it came to actually dropping his music, off his brother and his close friend Backstreet really enjoying and wanting to start managing GMK off how good they thought the song was. The success of the music video gave GMK a sign that he was going in the right direction and to keep up the music, so that's exactly what he did. GMK will go on to drop songs like Back to Reality, Soul Food, and Pray for War featuring his best friend Backstreet, which is now sitting at a solid 2.3 million views. Sadly, shortly after this, GMK will be picked up for a gun charge in 2020. Thankfully, he'd beat this charge, but it did kind of spook GMK as his music was starting to take off and he felt like he almost accidentally jeopardized his whole career. When GMK beat the case, he went on to get the phrase "Mashallah" tattooed on his face, meaning God wills it, as he felt that Allah was giving him a sign to continue with music and to stay out of trouble.
And this is a phrase, this is in Arabic too, it says Mashallah. Mashallah means like Allah has willed it. You know what I'm saying? Like Allah has willed this to happen. So I put Mashallah on my face because I feel like that's like a phrase that just determined the stage I was at in life when I put it on there. I feel like shit, I feel like damn, fresh out, did it twice, beat the system twice, did the baby time, ate it twice, you feel me, came home, and every time I came home, I still bubbled. Like it ain't nothing, it ain't, you feel me, it ain't no.
That being said, he would get locked up once more in September of 2020 for yet again, the illegal possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. So the stay out of trouble shit didn't play out as planned, though he did continue to do music, so I guess he kept half of the promise, if we being real. These charges were open cases at the same time as his last charges, so GMK was starting to feel up to his neck in stress, though GMK said that he was conditioning himself in jail to not feel that bad while he waited for verdicts. It helped that GMK said that being in jail was kind of fun, off them scrounging and making meals together and just hanging out with other inmates. Like, while it's not ideal, it's nowhere near the hell that people would make it out to be. A positive outlook seems to have served GMK really well throughout the years. Even when the court was trying to throw 9 years at him, he stayed relatively chipper and kinda unstressed about the whole thing. Not in a happy way, but more in a fuck it, I don't even care type of way. GMK had a rule for accepting prison time. He wouldn't accept no plea for more than 3 years, and 3 years was his limit, no more. If they want to give him more than that, then they gotta work for it. This turned out to be a really good decision on his part, as he'd end up beating both of the cases pretty easily.
It wasn't nothing going through my head. By the time that we got to throwing numbers around and shit, I was already like in the box by myself. So I had already been by myself for like a while. So at that point, I'm telling myself like, I don't care.
While being locked up, he would wind up reading Gucci Mane's biography, and that heavily inspired GMK, though probably not to the same extent as the support from his friendly inmates and guards, but it inspired him nonetheless. Speaking of inspiration, GMK would go on to get into the studio with many big names off of his success, one such artist being Future. GMK would go on to say later that he learned the technique he uses to record music efficiently from Future, off being in a studio with him, and GMK said that it really improved his musical output a lot as a result. Before the 2020 arrest, GMK would start to hang out around Ace a bit more, though not a whole lot more, only like 2 to 3 times. But after GMK's release, they became a lot closer, both musically and friendship-wise, even going so far as to Ace convincing GMK to move to Houston to duck all the issues he got in Florida, which honestly was the best decision he could have made. As soon as GMK touched down, him and Ace made and released a music video for Who Gon' Slide. This was my first introduction to GMK's music personally, and his energy and catchy chorus hooked me almost instantly. Ace really served as a mentor type role musically, pushing GMK to be more consistent with recordings, taking him around to studios, fancy hotels, and tours, just showing GMK the ropes basically, as well as pushing him into a more positive direction to go into. Over time, GMK became a big and trusted member of ATK, doing songs with J.Breezy, Ace, and all of them, as well as representing the ATK crew outwardly, like dissing the Six and getting more involved in street politics side of the ATK music group. Now, it's hard to say for sure how deep he went when helping out with the gang war, and I'm not really here to speculate on all that. I will say though, he's in it enough to represent ATK when speaking about the war and how real they are. An example of this is the recent live where he checked the fussy crip Brick Baby.
I'm not fitting around hype man. You sitting around OnlyFans.
He's got enough rank to always be around the top motherfuckers in the crew, and to outwardly speak and defend on the crew's image, so I imagine he's at least slightly involved in the war. But that's enough Vlad work for today, like Detective Vlad is off duty right now. Let's get back to his legacy right quick. GMK in his first Vlad interview said that the war in Jacksonville was both a good and a bad thing for both crews. On the good side, it gave more publicity to the music talent coming out of Jacksonville, but on the bad side, it gave cops, lawyers, and judges more incentives to look into criminal going-ons and prosecute.
It's bad in a sense. It's bad in a sense that it's giving these people who was just sitting on their ass 5-6 years ago, these people, these state attorneys and these detectives and shit, is giving these people who was just sitting on their ass before we wasn't shit, like letting everything slide. It's giving these people incentive to try to show themselves.
And of course, GMK would also go on to say that Fulio and Ace ain't beefing if they say they ain't. Sure, bud. Whatever, man. GMK would go on to release his song Rags to Riches and Bang That Heat, which both served to grow his fan base to a loyal degree. Though he slowed down on music uploads for a little after this, he continued doing feats and touring until around the time of Fulio's passing. Fulio's passing reinvigorated a lot of Jacksonville scene. You had everyone from Ace to J-Dot to GMK to J4 all dropping songs to capitalize off the hit. Adjacent to this, a California podcaster by the name of Brick Baby would go onto the platform of No Jumper to speak on 6 Block, supposedly shooting 6 people in retaliation for Fulio. There is no evidence of this, and I don't know why the motherfucker spoke out on it, but he did nonetheless. In response to this, many members of ATK took to the internet to diss Brick, basically being like, keep our names out of your mouth, especially when you lying. The main members to go to social media was Fallout Sosa and GMK. Brick, in his infinite wisdom, decided he was going to double down and ban ATK from doing shows in Atlanta and North Carolina. Like he has that fucking power. In response to this, Ace, as well as GMK, Fallout Sosa, and others went and performed at a venue in North Carolina, basically being like, you ain't doing shit, shut the fuck up. After this blatant humiliation, and after finding out, oh, Southern gangs are actually about it and not like the pussy squabbling motherfuckers from Cali, Brick would go on a live with GMK in order to calm down the tensions. GMK would go on to press and get Brick to apologize, ending this interaction for the best and kinda showing the Cali audience that Southerners aren't just gonna kiss the ass of every West Coast motherfucker with a flag. Just because you in the South with good manners don't mean motherfuckers won't pop you for stepping out of line. To end this off, I'd like to say that GMK has one of the more promising careers coming out of Jacksonville. His positive outlook makes him shine in the face of the dark and heaviness that often accompanies this scene. Be sure to check his music out. Rags to Riches is one of my favorite songs, personally. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell, that way you don't miss any of my uploads, and I plan to make a Y&R video after this, because I've not done any KTA members other than Fulio. If y'all want to see anyone specific, be sure to comment, and of course, if you fuck with the video, be sure to like and share it. Thanks, peace out, chill out.